By importing exotic Gothic elements into an everyday Yorkshire setting, Emily broke new ground, transforming the familiar into somewhere timeless and strange. However, Charlotte, like Anne, drew on her experiences of the real world, which had taken her even further afield than England. Charlotte was desperate to escape the confines of home. She argued that she needed to learn French in order to set up her own school, and so she came here to Brussels in 1842. Really, it was the pretext for an adventure, but she didn't realise that this journey would change her life.
When I normally come to Brussels, it's for an EU summit, which is not exactly the most exotic of occasions. But for Charlotte, this city was hugely romantic, a world away from the parsonage in Haworth. She came to live at the pensionnat Hegér, and she lived in the same house as her professor, who she described at first as an insane tomcat, a delirious hyena.
To begin with, Charlotte and Constantin Hegér clashed, sparring with one another in lessons. But he knew she had talent and encouraged her writing. Charlotte had never received this kind of attention from such a cultured and educated man before. Her reaction was perhaps predictable, but catastrophic. She found herself falling in love with her married professor. Her intense feelings scared Charlotte so much that she was driven to come to this cathedral.
I actually did confess, a real confession. That's what Charlotte wrote to Emily. And she had to press the priest to hear her. After all, she wasn't a Catholic herself. What was it that she was so desperate for him to hear? Well, she was unhappily in love with a married man and had nobody really to talk to. So perhaps this was the only way that she could unburden herself of those guilty feelings.
I'm curious to find out more about Monsieur Hegér and why Charlotte became so infatuated with him. I'm going to meet François Fierens.
Bonjour. Ravi de vous rencontrer.
Monsieur Hegér's great-great-great-grandson.
Well, there is a famous family portrait here.
You can see he's got quite passionate eyes.
I have other portraits of him here.
This is him in later life.
Yes.
Oh, yes, so I can see there.
Even later.
Oh, no, I like that. You can see a kind of sense of humour there.
Yes, exactly,
exactly.
Yes,
he's glinting at the camera
yes.
in quite a mischievous way.
Clever, smiling. He had a lot of humour.
So do you think that he had quite a profound effect on the way she went on to write her novels?
Charlotte believed in the genius of the artist. And Constantin Hegér was more focused on the work to do.
The technique,
yes,
he was very
yes,
strict about her and told her to discard what wasn't necessary.
But I can show you here the homeworks of Charlotte. And so...
So this is actually written by Charlotte Brontë?
Yes. So...
oh, wonderful.
You can see that... these devoirs were corrected by Constantin Hegér.
And is he correcting just the French or actually the writing style as well?
The writing style, the expression. The pupils were expected to participate themselves actively in their own education. It was not just receive an information by developing their own and personal views.
He provoked something very passionate, didn't he, within her? So what do you think really went on between the pair of them?
Constantin Hegér was very happy in his family life. Charlotte was rather isolated, not very connected with the other teachers of the school, and rather alone.
So Charlotte went back home to live in England, and then all these letters started, didn't they? These sort of outpouring of very passionate letters.
Day and night, I find neither rest nor peace. If I sleep, I have tormenting dreams in which I see you, always severe, always grave and angry with me.
What do you think happened when they arrived in Brussels? What would that have meant to Monsieur Hegér?
I don't know. Frankly, I don't know. He answered the first letters once or maybe twice, and thereafter his reaction was not to answer after, because the letters became so exaggerated, passionated, and he probably considered that the best thing to do was not to answer.
Your last letter has sustained me, has nourished me for 6 months. Now I need another, and you will give it to me.
Charlotte was so obsessed by her one-sided love affair with Monsieur Hegér that it became the focus of her first novel, which wasn't Jane Eyre. It was called The Professor. Charlotte wrote it in the male first person, the voice of the professor himself, who eventually falls in love with a shy, plain, but good-hearted pupil. Sound familiar? It was, of course, a consoling fantasy for Charlotte in the face of all her unanswered letters.
You've got Agnes Grey, which is therapy for Anne, getting rid of all these children she had to look after. And the professor, of course, is Charlotte's poor, beaten, broken heart over Monsieur Hegér.
Yes, her tutor in
and
Brussels.
yet it gets rejected, whereas the others go.
I actually think the problem with the professor was the wish fulfillment, though. Because you have it written as if she writes it as if she was her professor who would fall in love with her, and everything works out fine. It seems like it's something she had to take time on and transform those same feelings and transport them into Jane Eyre in a sense. So she just needed more time.
Although I don't think the professor is quite as bad as everybody makes it out to be. I really don't.
Make your case.
Okay, all right, okay, I'll make my case. I think one of the things that people underestimate with Charlotte Brontë is her quite kind of waspish humour. And she's so bitchy about the pupils in the school. I mean, that's very kind of heartfelt about it.
I'll tell you what, I do admire Charlotte for, after the professor's been rejected, still ploughing on. And the mere fact of continuing once you've had your first book rejected. I mean, when I get even a piece rejected or marked heavily, I'm just destroyed for a week.
You know, I don't think she was the kind of person who was deterred by things. And she had such determination of spirit.